Well, welcome everyone for another conversation about this about the Stewardship Well Done journey. We are joined today by Danette Harper and Tim Burkhart and Scott Blakemore from FMF Financial Services. Thank you, folks, for taking time to share about the journey once again. And we are today in step 8 of the journey out of the 9 steps. Today is all about planning and our financial plan. And so I think let's just jump in with this question, this idea that a lot of the other steps along the way, whether it's synthesizing our priorities or looking at a budget or putting essential documents together, requires some kind of a planning step to it. So what sets this step apart that specifically is called plan from the types of planning that people have already been doing all along the journey?
Well, I'll start. I would say that the planning process pretty much starts encompassing all the different steps that we've been talking about. I mean, it will take a look at your debt. It takes a look at your retirement savings that you've been doing thus far. And then we look at all these different things you've been doing. And then we look at what do you want to accomplish? And we kind of lay those two things together to see like, what have you been doing and what do you want to accomplish? And what can we tweak or can we change in the process to help you have a better outcome or a more likelihood of a successful outcome? And taking into mind both what is going to happen maybe in the near future and then what will happen down the road with possibly like legacy, and we'll talk about legacy later, but with your legacy that you want to accomplish. And then we also take a look at what happens if it doesn't happen. You know, what happens if something unfortunate happens and things don't go as according to plan? What do we do then? And so we're really bringing it all together, taking a look about other things that they might not have accomplished at the time. Maybe it's some savings for a child's education, things like that. But it's really bringing it all together to have one cohesive plan or strategy that we're hoping to accomplish for their life.
Great. So this is a very comprehensive approach. It basically looks at everything and starts bringing all of the smaller pieces of a person's financial life and understanding together into one broad overview. Is that safe to say?
Absolutely.
You know, another thing that's interesting is a lot of times people have a plan, but they don't even realize what it is. So they've been assembling pieces. They're making decisions along life's way. And what's really interesting to me as someone engages with Scott or another one of our planners is suddenly all those pieces begin to look like a montage of who they are financially, and then really who they are as a person as well. And so I think the better you can see that montage and begin to identify it and see, oh, there's kind of a blurry thing over here going on. And so from that, they can begin to work on some areas to say, as you kind of like you're stepping back and looking at some sort of work of art, and you can then begin to do that. So there's a very scientific side of what Scott does, and then there's also a very artistic side of that. And there's a scientific side of that where we actually can run a calculation and show how that plays out. And some of the things are not as obvious as you might think, because you look at a particular tool and you say, wow, that's got some fancy things that are connected to it, but do you really need those pieces? And the plan helps them to get a center again on that whole question as to whether or not those components are really important as it would relate to the person's overall goals and where they're trying to go.
When you say a particular tool, Tim, what you get, maybe for some people who don't quite understand what you're talking about, give us a few ideas. Like, what are a few things people would bring to you that you're referencing by saying a particular tool?
Well, the bigger ones typically are associated with maybe an insurance company where they have packaged a product in such a way that it's a core product, such as maybe an investment that's being offered that you might find and be able to look it up in the newspaper or online and say, okay, I know what that investment is, but then they wrap it with some additional feature that you might say, hey, isn't this really interesting? It's going to guarantee something to you. But what many times people don't realize is there's a cost associated with that guarantee, and how that cost is going to either, hold them back or maybe even help them based upon their situation. If there's a health issue going on with the primary person involved, or even the secondary, the husband, the wife, And so, what is the longevity of the family? Hey, I don't, everyone in my family, no one's ever made it beyond 75. So in that situation, maybe we should take into consideration, maybe something that helps safeguard some issues. And so without getting into specifics on products, which we try not to do, those are the concepts. They usually come with something that has a wrapper on it. And you say, what is that wrapper? And they many times might use jargon to describe something that maybe is just unique to them, to a particular company. And then so what we do is we pull the wrapper off and we get into the meat of it and then begin to analyze that particular tool and then relate that to the plan to say, oh, wow, that really fits or it doesn't fit.
I would add to that a lot of times, like Tim said a few very good things. One is a plan is like putting a mosaic together, and they're doing things with little tiles, life insurance or a product. Those oftentimes are the what's, but the planning is the why. And so people are doing things, and because at the moment they have a need, and so they do something with a what, which is a product. And a plan is really saying, why are we doing these things? What is the goal? What is the purpose? What is the outcome we hope to achieve? And then we can look at all the what's, and we can assemble the mosaic to be the picture that they're wanting to accomplish. And that's really probably the best analogy I could give as to how a plan comes alongside someone and helps them really make more informed, more purposeful decisions versus just buying a product that someone's told them they need to own this annuity or they need to own this long-term care policy. They haven't really thought about the why that they're doing it. They know they need to do something. They're just not certain where. So the plan puts the why to the equation, and then we fill in around with the what's.
This step brings along someone beside you along the journey. A lot of the previous work of the journey you're doing on your own. You're doing a budget and you're working with your employer to make sure that you're matching retirement savings, and you're asking certain questions along the way. But this is like a double check and checking with a professional to say, look, I'm not a financial professional, but these are the things that I've been doing. This is where we're trying to go, but I'm not sure if we're going to get there. Can you help me with that? My husband and I personally went through the process, and we have self-employment as part of our occasion. So there's not a guaranteed salary that comes in every month and things like that. And I can't tell you a lot of the particulars that came out of our first meeting with our financial planner, but what I can tell you is that he told us we were okay. And that meant so much to me. We have the graphs and the charts, and that's all helpful. And I go back and I look at that from time to time. But just that second opinion saying what you're doing is good, you're going to be okay, was so reassuring to me. And then once you have that advisor in the plan, when certain things come along like COVID and maybe your self-employment isn't going as well as it was, you can come back to the plan and the advisor and say, okay, these things have changed and I'm not sure. Like Scott said, the mosaic, it's moving. What do we do with this? And they, they're so good. They bring you back to the plan. What were you trying to accomplish and what can we do to make sure that you get there?
That's a really great observation, Danette. And so you've been through this process personally, which makes me think, what about someone who hasn't been through the process, or they're thinking to themselves as maybe they're listening to this video, I'm not sure I even have all these individual pieces. Am I even, should I even begin the planning process, or what to expect as I begin the planning process? I call the office, I send in an email, and I'm saying, okay, I'm thinking that maybe the plan is for me. What can people expect when they make that contact with your office and kind of get on-ramped into this planning process and hooked up with an advisor?
Well, I'll say that we start with a lot of questions. And as Tim alluded to earlier, there's usually is a question, the reason why they're calling, and they have an issue, a problem, a situation. So we want to understand that situation up front. Then we're just going to ask a lot of questions as to what have they done. We're going to need to gather a lot of information. It's not terribly hard information. It might just take a little work to dig up some of the answers, but we're going to have some conversations. We're going to ask a lot of questions. There's going to be some work that they're going to have to do to provide statements, things like that. And then we're going to go to work and probably ask a few more questions along the way. And then we're going to put together a document that takes these things as you know, people are operating on a plan. They might not have it in writing, but they're operating on some form of plan. And we will put it in writing so they can see it. Like, this is what the outcomes, and this is, you know, the likelihood of success with what they're currently doing. And then we're going to offer solutions and other things they may consider that they haven't considered before. And then we're going to let them decide what they would like to do. And the thing that drew me to FMF Financial Services is we're not putting any pressure on to buy anything. To, you know, our goal is to help you understand and make wise decisions for your future, for your family, for the things you care about, for ministry, whatever it is that God's calling you to do. We want to help you make more informed and wiser decisions. I'm not worried about selling anything. I'm worried about helping them understand and make a wise decision. And I would share that oftentimes people may be intimidated to start and to have a conversation because they feel we don't have enough yet, or we you know, whatever it is. I would encourage you to have a conversation still. I really, if I've heard it once, I've heard it every time. The comment comes after we've presented everything and given the information. The client walks away saying, Scott, Kaylin, Kirk, whomever they work with, I wish I would have done this 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's just, I would be in such a different place. And I can't help but agree. They would have been. But you know what? Better to start today than to wait another 5 or 10 years, or even 1 year. Have the conversation. We want to talk to you. We want to help you. It's free. The first consultation is free. So just have the conversation. Don't wait.
Finances are obviously something that we have a hard time talking about with other people. Even spouses have a hard time talking about them. But people just need to not be intimidated to call. We are not here to judge. If you have something in your financial past or your present that, you think is a bad mark, we're not going to judge. That's just your experience. And maybe we can help you get past that. But that's not what a financial plan is about. It's all about coming alongside and helping, not harping on maybe some mistakes or things that you could have done in the past. Let's go forward together.
This really is a ministry. You all have said that in other videos before, and that FMF Financial Services is a ministry and a service to the church. And when you're operating out of love for God and love for others, it really becomes redemptive. What you're describing is almost like, so you've made some mistakes in your past. We think of redemption only in spiritual, intellectual terms, but God can redeem our stuff too. And to actually see a redemptive element come into even our finances, like, oh my goodness, there are sisters and brothers at FMF who will walk alongside me, not judge, like you said, Danette, and actually help me find a way to a better future that I never had before. That's incredible. Bring the scattered pieces together and we can help you with a more preferred whole where everything works together more synergistically than it ever did before. Any experiences with that, or just really great stories that you're thinking, wow, this was an example that just kind of personifies this?
I've been doing this 12 years. So my experience is somewhat limited. If Kirk were on here, he would share a few that are pretty amazing stories about people who have given to ministries, alma maters, given to their grandkids' education in ways they never, ever expected they'd be able to. And it's really from good planning and good coaching. Did their plan go perfect? No plan goes perfectly. My plan isn't going perfectly. Any of us, no one's plan goes perfectly, but you have some goals and you have some targets. So when things change, you're able to shift and still be able to accomplish some of those goals. And so we've had some people that have had some trying times and have worked through it and still are able to do some amazing things with their resources for their family and for things that they care about. I would say another thing that is pretty cool when I meet with some of my clients, and I know Kirk is done the same, is oftentimes, and this is, a lot of times, and I'm not trying to be very stereotypical here, but it seems like the woman in the family tends to run the checkbook and day-to-day budget. I see that often, but I see more of the investments and life insurance, those type of things, being handled by the husband. And this going through and having these conversations and putting the mosaic together, I've seen physically on faces relief from both parties, where the husband feels great that his wife has a resource that she can go to if something were to happen to him, and the wife being relieved because she knows who to go to, because she doesn't quite fully understand all of it. She knows how to pay the Comcast bill, and she's going to make sure that the power is kept on. But some of the other things she wouldn't know who necessarily to contact. That is just a huge benefit that comes through going through a planning conversation. Just that peace, that relief, not that it's going to go perfect, but that there's a person, a place, a group of people they can come to that will help walk along them on their journey.
I think I've heard Kirk talk about a client that we certainly can't all do this, but it's a great story that she was a single lady, very well educated, did very well for herself during her life, and came to the point of perhaps looking at moving into a retirement village. And she came to Kirk, and they ran the numbers, and he assured her, as he had several times throughout their relationship as she went through her career, that she was okay. But it came to light that she was so okay that when she sold her current home, she could use all of that money and put it into a donor advised fund. And she is now drawing on that and giving that money away to the ministries and the charities that are close to her heart. But, here she came wondering, do I have enough to move into this retirement village? And, can I do this? I don't even know if I can. And he was able to help her say, you can do that, and you can do so much more. And I just think that that's a great story. Wouldn't we all love to have a charitable checkbook that we hear of a need and we can dip into it and help to meet that need? So she's a wonderful story coming out of Kirk's office.
These are all wonderful things. I thank you all so much for your sharing. If you're out there and you're thinking, is it time for me to engage a plan? Yeah, it could very well be. Call. You can't know unless you have the conversation, and the staff at FMF is ready to have that conversation with you. I think you can see it. They'll take the pieces and help reveal some possibilities that may not have been seen by you. There may be, as they said, a piece you think is missing, and it may not be missing at all. Maybe like Danette, you'd hear, you're okay. Or there might be a critical change that needs to be put in place to elevate your situation, but you won't know unless you engage a professional. So for all these great reasons, and because we are all sharing our faith together and walking in this through a kingdom lens, what a great way for you to reach out to the staff at FMF Financial Services. So Danette and Tim and Scott, thank you so much for your input, your stories, your feedback, and we will be together for the next conversation in the Stewardship Well Done journey.